All right, seeing as we have a quorum, I will call to order this meeting of the Bloomington Common Council for Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. Clerk Bolden, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Flaherty?
Here.
Zulik?
Here.
Rallo? Okay, moving forward. Ruff? Nope. Piedmont Smith?
Here.
Stossberg?
Here.
Asari?
Here.
Rosenbarger?
Here.
Daly?
Here.
And coming back to Rallo?
We can't hear you. We can hear his, you can see the voice.
No, Councilmember Rallo, we can't hear you. And I don't see Councilmember Ruff yet.
All right, well, hopefully we can get the sound going so that Councilmember Rallo can participate. But in the meantime, I will move ahead with the land and labor acknowledgement. We recognize that the city of Bloomington sits on native land. The city, as well as city administrative buildings, are on the traditional homelands of the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people, and we acknowledge they are past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We also acknowledge that much of the economic progress and development in Indiana, and specifically in Bloomington, resulted from the unpaid labor and forced servitude of people of color, specifically enslaved African labor. We acknowledge that this land remains home to and a site of gathering and healing for many Indigenous and other people of color, and we commit to the work necessary to create and promote a more equitable and just Bloomington. We move forward knowing and acknowledging our rich, complicated, and sometimes painful past so that we can learn from it and create a true land of opportunity. All right, now I'll review the agenda for this evening's meeting. We will have approval of minutes. Then we will move to reports from council members and from the mayor and city offices. Under that heading, we have a report on the climate action plan. Then we will have reports from council committees, and then the first period of public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. A maximum of 20 minutes is set aside for each of those reporting sections, council members, mayor, and city offices, committees, and public. Then we will move to appointments to boards and commissions. Then we will have legislation for first readings, where we have Appropriation Ordinance 2024-02 to additionally appropriate food and beverage tax funds, general fund dollars, and ARPA state and local fiscal recovery fund dollars for 2024, and to approve a revised 2024 budget for the Monroe County Capital Improvement Board of Managers. We would then move on to legislation for second readings and resolutions, but we don't have any. We then move to a period of maximum 25 minutes for additional public comment on items not on the agenda. Then we will talk about council schedule and adjourn. So let us start with the minutes.
I move to suspend the rules and consider the minutes listed from December 14th, 2022 in the ordinary course of business this evening.
Second. All right, and that is because those minutes precede this council term. So Deputy Attorney Kulak, do we have any council members currently on Zoom?
Not at the moment. Dave Rallo has not rejoined yet.
So may we do a voice vote on motions until we have anybody on Zoom?
That should be correct. Yeah, you can do a voice vote with members only in person.
Okay. So all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
I move to approve the minutes from December 14th, 2022, March 6th, 2024, April 9th, 2024, and April 10th, 2024.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve those 4 sets of minutes. Are there any comments or corrections, questions? Clerk Bolden.
I just wanted to point out for the council members and any members of the public that we made some, yes, we can hear you, that we made some corrections to some spellings of names in 2 sets of minutes, the minutes of something, March 6th and April 10th. So just wanted to flag that for everybody. That's it.
Thank you, Clerk Bolden. All right. We will now do a roll call vote on the approval of the minutes.
me try that again. So Councilmember Flaherty,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Rallo,
Yes.
perfect. Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Strasburg,
Yes.
Sari,
Yes.
Rosenbarger,
Yes.
and Daley.
Yes.
Thank you.
And those minutes are approved. We will next move to reports from council members. I will start, actually, I will not start. I will ask my colleagues to start. Let's start on my left. Councilmember Daley, do you have a report this evening?
No report. Thank you.
Councilmember Rosenbarger.
Yes, I have a report tonight. Okay. Indiana Avenue is under consideration for a couple different concepts for safety improvements, pretty much the corridor starting at Atwater and Indiana. And there is a survey that folks can take on the internet. Let's see, there's a page for it, and it is bloomington.in.gov/engineering/projects/Indiana. And so far there has been at least one meeting, and there's another meeting coming up on this. The next public meeting is Tuesday, August 13th at 5:30 p.m. at the Sample Gates. And just some things that residents have said, and so what both concepts are like taking into account for resident safety here is that after a survey, only 43% of residents feel safe along the Indiana corridor, Indiana Avenue. Less than 20% of bicyclists feel safe along the corridor. 62% of all respondents would be more likely to bike along the corridor with a protected bike lane. And the top 3 safety improvements requested are 1, improved intersections for pedestrians, number 2, improved intersections for vehicles and bicycles, and number 3, protected bike lanes. So there are a lot of opportunities to offer input on this, one being the survey on the project page, and then the upcoming meeting on August 13th, and then it will also be going to Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Commission and Traffic Commission. So a lot of opportunities for folks to get involved if you would like to. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Asari?
No report.
Councilmember Strasburg.
I do have a little report, thank you. First, I want to thank Kate for pointing out the Indiana Avenue corridor design stuff, because I was also going to mention that tonight. And I also actually updated my council webpage today so that there's a direct link from my council webpage to that Indiana Ave corridor study, because I find it sometimes hard to navigate and find those pieces of information on the city website. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out around planning and transportation is that tomorrow, Thursday, August 1st at 5:30 is the next neighborhood meeting about the East Longview Greenway project. And so that goes right through Park Ridge, and it will be the 3rd public meeting about that redesign, and there should be some new stuff presented there. So that link is also on my website if you want to see the design, and I urge anybody who goes through Park Ridge on Longview as part of your commute every day to come to that meeting and give feedback. So that is at 5:30 tomorrow night, and it had to get moved, by the way, if anybody thinks, oh yeah, I was going to go to that, I was going to go to the park and go to that meeting. No, it got moved indoors because of potential weather concerns, and so that is going to be at the Piccoli Dolce Cafe shop at 223 South Pete Ellis Drive. So that's that strip mall on the corner of Longview and Pete Ellis, and the Piccoli Dolce shop faces Longview. So they are donating that space to this meeting, and that's really appreciated. I also wanted to update council about the most recent Plan Commission meeting, which was in July. There was one petition about splitting a lot in the Grandview neighborhood, which is on the east side. The lot in question is large and kind of oddly shaped. It was kind of one of those weird plats dating back a long ways. So there's just a lot of details to work out with that, but there was no public comment about it, and I don't think that it's really controversial at this point. It would end up with 2 lots, one of which looks very much like all the rest of the lots in that neighborhood with a single-family home on it and about the same size, and the other one could be developed in a way befitting, it's an R2 designation. So it's residential small lot, and it could, in theory, have something built on it, like a single-family home, but there's no immediate plans right now. And that got recommended through to the August meeting, which was the staff recommendation. And then the other thing that I just want to make sure that council and also the public are aware of that's happening on the east side is that the neighborhood of Green Acres, which is just east of IU campus, has submitted a petition to be designated as a historic conservation district. So that neighborhood group had 3 public meetings about that this summer. And the Historic Preservation Commission has a special meeting right now that they plan to address that on August 12th. And that is a Monday night, and right now it is scheduled for 5 o'clock in these chambers, but I'm not sure that that is going to stick. So if you're interested in that meeting, just kind of keep an eye on that. And I don't know if it's going to stick because at 5:30 on the 12th, there's supposed to be a Plan Commission meeting in here. So I don't think that both of those things can happen. So I'm not quite sure what went on with the scheduling for those things. But if anybody has any questions for me about that, that is kind of a process that I've been watching closely because Green Acres is in District 3, so I've been paying attention to it. So that is my report. Thank you.
Councilmember Strasburg, I just wanted to ask a quick question of the subdivision where there was the neighborhood where there was a subdivision of a plat. What was that? Oh. What neighborhood was that?
It's Grandview.
Grandview, thank you.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting lot. Like the lot is just like kind of a regular rectangular lot and then attached to something else that kind of like goes off on the side and goes behind some things and has some wooded area. It's a very strange shape.
I just didn't catch the neighborhood name.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's Grandview, sure.
All right, Councilmember Flaherty, do you have a report tonight?
No report, thank you.
Councilmember Zulik?
Just a quick one. Thank you. So at the CIB meeting, which stands for Capital Improvement Board, they met on the 10th of July. They are currently working on the construction of the convention center. Just a couple updates from that meeting. Number one, they approved their architect/engineer contract, and they also approved their CMC contract. And so those are with Schmidt Associates and Weddle Brothers respectively. Thanks. Anyway, the hotel RFP deadline was for July 26th. I haven't heard anything, but there were some sentiments at the meeting that deadline might be extended. So if you are a hotelier and you're listening to this, you might still be able to get in there. As far as I know, they have had 4 applicants as of the July 10th meeting. And those are all my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rollo, do you have a report tonight?
No, I have no remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. For my report, I will just say that Dave Askins has filed a complaint against the Common Council on June 17th, alleging an open door violation. And Deputy Attorney Kulak has filed an appearance and a motion for extension of time. And the deadline for a responsive answer is August 9th.
I would like to move to authorize Deputy Attorney Kulak to respond and represent the council in that pending litigation and to ratify all previous filings and actions taken to date.
Second.
All right, any questions on that motion? Councilmember, Clerk Bolden.
Can you please repeat that motion?
I move to authorize Deputy Attorney Kulak to respond and represent the council in the pending litigation and to ratify all previous filings and actions taken to date.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any council member questions? Clerk Bolden, could you please call the roll on the motion?
Yes, one moment, please. Councilmember Rollo? Nope, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I take that back. Well, okay, it's there. Councilmember Zulik? Yes. Councilmember Piedmont-Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Strasburg?
Yes.
Councilmember Asari?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenbarger?
Yes.
Councilmember Daly?
Yes.
And Councilmember Flaherty?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes 8-0.
I would also like to move to authorize the council president, Isabel Piedmont-Smith, to attend any mediations or negotiations if scheduled on the council's behalf.
Second.
All right, any questions or comments on that motion? Clerk Bolden, did you catch that?
Yes, thank you.
Could you?
I'm going to email you those. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Clerk Bolden, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Rallo,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Strasburg,
Yes.
Masari,
Yes.
Rosenbarger,
Yes.
Daly,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Zulik.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. And that concludes council member reports. We will move on to a report from Sean Mia, the Assistant Director in the Economic and Sustainable Development Department in charge of sustainability. Welcome.
Go.
All right. Well, good evening. My name is Sean Mia. I am the Assistant Director of Sustainability for the Economic and Sustainable Development Department. I have been in this position since April of 2023, and I'm happy to be here tonight to provide an update on our progress in implementing the city's Climate Action Plan. The City of Bloomington published a Climate Action Plan in 2021. The main goals are to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 25% below 2018 emission levels by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. In 2023, the budget for climate action implementation was $2,092,000 from the General Fund, ED-LIT, and ARPA. In 2024, the budget for climate action implementation is $2,130,140. This funding is allocated from the General Fund, ED-LIT, CREED, and TIF. Since I won't be able to cover every climate action project and program that is being implemented in my presentation tonight, the best way to learn about our climate actions is to visit our newly launched Climate Action Dashboard. The link and QR code are located on this slide. The link to the dashboard can also be found on the City of Bloomington's sustainability website at bloomington.in.gov/sustainability. The former Sustainability Program Coordinator and I spent around 7 months developing this dashboard with our vendor, Climate Nave. Wes DiSilvestro, who is the founder and CEO of Climate Nave, is joining us via Zoom tonight to give us a brief overview of the dashboard. Thank you, Wes, for being here. I'll hand over the presentation to you now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. And I also want to thank Council for giving me the opportunity to present alongside you today. So as Sean introduced me, my name is Wes DiSilvestro. I'm the founder of a public benefit startup called Climate Nav, and we work with local governments and other regulated entities across the country to help them reduce their emissions and communicate their impact on sustainability projects more effectively with the public. And so, I want to start by just saying it's been an absolute privilege to see this dashboard launch earlier this year around Earth Day. As Sean mentioned, we've been working on this for around 7 months together, very intensively. But I actually want to step back and give a little bit of the backstory of this project because it even goes further back than that, which is Climate Nav began collaborating with the city back in 2021 with the former assistant director prior to Sean, Lauren Clemens. And Lauren was an amazing collaborator at the time. And then, later, Michaela Lynch, the city's former sustainability program coordinator, and Sean spent many, many months to get this collaboration together and to design the dashboard from the ground up. So what we're presenting today is very much so a culmination of 3 years of work. And it's not an off-the-shelf project, but much more so custom designed to create a narrative and really showcase all the hard work that ESD staff has been doing in the sustainability space, because Bloomington and the city is really very much so a leader in the country for this. So to start, we designed the dashboard to be a central hub for showcasing the city's sustainability work and really showing how the city is a role model for transparency and accountability. And then on this slide, to start the dashboard, we really designed it with the goal of making it constituent friendly. I've been in this space for a while, and I think Sean has seen this as well, but too often discussions around local climate action become very technical, they're very intimidating to the average constituent, and they can kind of scare them away from a really important topic. So we wanted to provide an accessible place for constituents to be able to go, learn about what the city is working on in the sustainability space, and also learn how they can get involved. If you jump to the next slide there, Sean, you can show how one aspect of the dashboard is up at the top, you'll see a variety of different sectors listed out. These are things like energy in the built environment or transportation, water and wastewater, and so on. And we show the different areas that the city is participating in to reduce its emissions. And within each of those sectors, we give constituents the ability to see the programs that the city of Bloomington is managing, as well as actions that they themselves can take to reduce their carbon footprint. So for example, on this slide, we're showing some of the city's work to improve energy efficiency in municipally owned buildings. And we connect this to the overarching climate action plan to make that more accessible to constituents. We have a narrative that explains the purpose of this action. And we even have, you'll see on the right side there, some of the co-benefits associated with the action, as well as some of the metrics that we update each year to really rigorously track progress on this. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sean. And we really designed this dashboard to be data-driven. We didn't want to just tell, but also show a story of how the city's programs are reducing emissions and driving real outcomes in the community. So throughout the dashboard, we've broken down what would traditionally be really complex concepts and technical reports into something that's accessible and easy to view, such as some of the graphs you're seeing on the screen. And we really believe this is going to help constituents make a logical link with how programs such as ED Lit are really driving concrete substantive outcomes in the community and benefiting their lives every day. Next slide. And so within each sector, constituents are also invited in not only seeing what the city is doing, but also how they can take action themselves. So we provide a stack rank list of actions on how they can reduce their carbon footprint. And we connect those to resources at the state, local, and federal level within Bloomington for helping them find out how they can maybe finance the purchase of an electric vehicle or buy a new energy efficient appliance, all with localized programs at the city or other kind of things available to residents that they can use. And we think this would be a great opportunity for council members. If you ever have constituents come to you with questions, this is an awesome jumping off point to show them where the most up-to-date resources are and point them in one direction that you can trust. Next slide. And so the entire dashboard that you've seen so far is powered on the back end by a set of tools that allow staff to be more data-driven. And so our team and our software is working alongside the city's sustainability staff to continually update the greenhouse gas inventory every year, estimate the amount of impact each of the programs the city is taking on and funding, and also to update those metrics that you saw so that the dashboard is always fresh and doesn't go stale at any point. Next slide. And so to conclude, I want to just give a huge word of thanks to all the people that were required to pull this project off. Thanks to Lauren for kind of kicking this off when she used to work at the city, as well as to Shauna and Kaylin, who have put in genuinely countless hours over the last 7 months to pull this off. And thank you to council for your commitment to local climate action and investment in this critical work. Special thanks to council members Piedmont Smith and Matt Flaherty, who actually gave some design feedback a little over a year ago and shaped the direction of what this dashboard looks like today. And of course, thanks to the broader ESD team and City of Bloomington staff for your everyday commitment to public service and serving the community. And now back to you, Sean. I know you have lots to share with council about all the hard work that your team has been doing over the past year.
Great. Thank you so much, Wes. Thank you for being here. Okay, so our climate action plan is divided into 8 sectors. In today's presentation, I will provide highlights of several of the largest climate actions that are being implemented in these sectors. I will provide an overview about municipal projects and grant programs related to renewable energy, energy efficiency, climate resilience, and I will also provide an update about Project 46. So hold on to your hats, there's a lot to cover here. So renewable energy is one of the best ways to reduce carbon emissions, is to invest in renewable energy. Municipal solar installations. On the left side of my slides, you'll see the climate action plan strategies that align with the climate actions that are being implemented. We currently have installed 3.9 megawatts worth of solar arrays at 34 municipal sites. I help to manage these sites, and as well as the company that we've hired to perform routine operation and maintenance services, as well as perform any necessary repairs to the systems. The company we have hired is called Verigy, and we have them under contract for 3 years. They monitor our solar production with an online dashboard called PowerTrack. So far, we have paid more than $37,000 for time and materials to replace inverters and solar panels and electric panel repairs to date. In 2024, Parks and Recreation installed 2 additional solar power systems at Cascade Golf Clubhouse and Switchyard Park Maintenance Building. One of our biggest grant programs is our Solar Energy Efficiency and Lighting Program. Small businesses and nonprofits can apply for a grant to have an 8-kilowatt solar power system installed. These systems are $25,000 each and are installed by MPI Solar, who we have under contract for 3 years. In 2023, we installed 19 solar power systems, 10 of which were installed at nonprofits and 9 were installed at small businesses. Here is a picture of one of our installations at Community Kitchen. Some of our grantees, they add additional funding to the project and increase the size of the solar power system. So this one at Community Kitchen, it's 41.82 kilowatts. So far in 2024, we have completed 9 solar installations, 6 at small businesses and 3 nonprofits. Our goal is to install 20 solar power systems by the end of the year. We also have funding for low-income solar grants. By the end of 2024, I will have provided the Bloomington Housing Authority with $300,000 to install solar power systems at low-income housing at Crestmont, Walnut Woods, and Arlington Park. With added funding from BHA, the total solar power generating capacity is over 175 kilowatts. I have also provided Habitat for Humanity of Monroe County $250,000 for 8 kilowatt solar power system installations on 10 low-income houses. The next section is energy efficiency. It's another great way that we are reducing greenhouse gas emissions across the city. Our largest contract is with Donovan Energy. In 2023, I issued an RFP and hired Donovan Energy for $215,000 to provide 18 months of municipal energy efficiency and decarbonization services. Their contract is divided into 5 phases. The first phase is data organization, which is the phase that we're currently working to finish up. Donovan Energy is organizing and uploading Duke Energy and CenterPoint bills and information about each of our municipal buildings, such as square footage, to an online energy monitoring dashboard called Brightly. The second phase is a desktop audit where Donovan will assess and stack rank city-owned real estate assets. They will provide a list of buildings that are the least energy efficient, so the worst offenders, and present the most significant opportunities for energy efficiency and decarbonization. This phase will include internal and external stakeholder meetings and integration of capital improvement plans. During the third phase, Donovan Energy will conduct in-depth on-site energy audits of prioritized city assets. During the fourth phase, Donovan Energy will evaluate and select energy conservation measures, or ECMs, for implementation based on the results of the energy audits. Donovan will provide engineered designs for the selected ECMs and provide detailed financial and operational impact analysis. So example ECMs are things such as geothermal systems, solar installations, HVAC and lighting upgrades, and weatherization projects. And finally, during the fifth phase, Donovan Energy will ensure successful implementation of ECMs, which will lead to improved energy efficiency, decarbonization, reduced operational costs, and most importantly, reduced greenhouse gas emissions. So with Donovan, we are fast-tracking 2 projects in order to apply for federal and state funding opportunities. The first one is the U.S. Department of Energy's Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, or EECBG for short. We have been awarded a $141,000 voucher and have been approved for an LED lighting retrofit right here at City Hall. Some of our lights date back to 1998, so it's really exciting to update our LED lights here in City Hall. So Public Works will issue an RFP, and we're aiming to have this project completed by the end of the year. We also submitted an application for an Indiana Department of Energy Development grant called Empowering Energy Partnerships in Indiana Communities, or EPIC grant. The funding will help us install a solar power system, battery energy storage system, and upgrade the HVAC system at Buskirk-Chumley Theater. The project is worth more than $700,000 and requires a 20% match. With the help of the Controller's Office, we will apply for reimbursement from the IRS Direct Pay Program, so the total cost of the project for the city will be around $58,000 based on estimates from Donovan Energy, and so we should know if we receive that award in August. Another part of the SEAL program is grants for small businesses and nonprofits to receive a free energy audit and up to $10,000 for energy efficiency or lighting upgrades. In 2022, IFF was hired to perform the energy audits. In 2023, we completed 4 projects at nonprofit organizations. So far in 2024, we have approved 2 nonprofit projects and are reviewing two additional nonprofit applications. We also have our Bloomington Green Home Improvement Program. We have partnered with Clean Energy Credit Union and Hoosier Hills Credit Union to provide financing with a 0.5% interest rate reduction. Residents can apply for a $1,000 rebate if they obtain a loan from one of the 2 credit unions to complete energy efficiency projects, solar installations, or purchase high-efficiency appliances. In 2023, we only provided 5 rebates out of the $75,000 that's allocated for this program, so there's really not a lot of uptake and interest in this program so far. But in 2024, in order to increase participation in BGHIP, we are removing barriers and increasing incentives for the program. Within the next several months, we will relaunch the program where residents no longer have to obtain a loan. The rebate amounts will be increased, especially for low-income residents. We will provide information about the Duke Energy Smart Saver program and IRA tax credits. So I'm really hoping that once we remove those barriers and that residents see that they can stack incentives and they receive increased rebates amount, we'll see more of these energy efficiency and decarbonization projects being completed across the city. Next, I'll talk about climate resilience. I'll cover some of the actions we are implementing to increase our community's resilience to climate change. One of the most significant impacts of climate change is extreme heat. More people die from extreme heat in the U.S. every year than any other weather-related event, including tornadoes, hurricanes, and floods. If global greenhouse gas emissions continue on their current trajectory, by 2100, Bloomington can expect to have an increase in annual average temperatures by 8 to 11 degrees Fahrenheit and an increase of 70-plus days above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So one of my favorite projects that I'm working on right now is the NOAA Heat Watch campaign. We have been selected by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to map our urban heat island and to know where our hottest areas are across the city. This is an excellent citizen science project that helps us to understand and address heat distribution across the city. We will also be collecting particulate matter or PM 2.5 data during the campaign and for 3 weeks at stationary sites in collaboration with the Bloomington Environmental Commission. We are aiming to have the Heat Watch campaign on a hot cloudless day, so I'm hoping that this is going to occur one day next week. In order to address extreme heat exposure, I have launched a comprehensive Stay Cool Bloomington program. This program provides funding for free admission to our 2 public pools and half-price admission to Wonder Lab when the National Weather Service determines that Bloomington's temperatures are at a Category 2 heat risk or higher. Tomorrow we will be at a Category 3 heat risk. I issued an RFP and have hired a contractor to install a window AC unit for residents who are low income and have a medical condition that increases their risk of a heat-related illness. We have launched a community heat survey to help us understand how residents experience heat, how they cope with it, and the cooling strategies they want to see implemented and where. Cooling strategies include tree plantings, sheltering bus stops, and opening cooling centers. And as of yesterday, we have received over 3,000 responses from the survey. The survey closes tomorrow, so if you haven't completed your survey, you should do so immediately. All right. So I have a contract with Dr. Dana Habib, who is a professor with the IU School of Informatics and the director of Healthy Cities Lab. Dr. Habib and her team have installed heat sensors across the city to monitor heat distribution for 12 months. We co-hosted 2 extreme heat workshops to understand populations who are vulnerable to extreme heat in Bloomington, map our assets, and complete a mock heat wave scenario. The workshops were attended by the Stay Cool Bloomington implementation team that I have created that consists of multiple city departments, Monroe County Health Department, Monroe County Emergency Management, nonprofits, MCCSC, Bloomington Transit, and Duke Energy. All of the information from the workshops and the Heat Watch campaign will be included in a comprehensive extreme heat action plan. I'm also working on completing a climate resilience plan. We were part of the 2023 IU Environmental Resilience Institute's Climate Resilience Cohort. I created a climate resilience task force, and we hosted 2 full-day community climate resilience workshops. Attendees prioritized climate risks and vulnerabilities and the adaptation strategies to address them. I worked with our ITS department to create an interactive climate resilience map, which can be found at geohub.bloomington.in.gov. This map will be updated with the data from the Heat Watch campaign. I hope to
I'd like to, if there's no objection, extend the time for this part of the meeting by 10 minutes to 7:20, and then if we need more, we can extend more. But please finish up your presentation, and then we'll have some questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. So my last section is about Project 46. Project 46 is a regional climate alliance between the communities of Bloomington, Nashville, and Columbus. Our steering committee was formed and began meeting in September 2023. The steering committee and advisory partners consist of the 3 government entities, IU Health, Cummins, IU Environmental Resilience Institute, TASIS Corporation, and Councilmember Matt Flaherty. The 3 cities signed a memorandum of understanding in December 2023. Each city has committed to an annual contribution of 50 cents per capita, which for Bloomington equals $40,000 per year. The Heritage Fund of Bartholomew County is our fiscal sponsor. In March of 2024, Cummins donated $27,360 to Project 46. I issued an RFQ, and the steering committee agreed to hire Farallon Strategies for 18 months for $134,000. Farallon Strategies is helping us to formalize Project 46, create interim and long-term governance documents, and conduct a regional greenhouse gas inventory with their subcontractor, ICLEI. Okay, so I have special thanks. I'm not doing all of this by myself. I want to thank our former Sustainability Program Coordinator, Michaelan Lynch. I'm really grateful for the collaboration between ESD, Parks and Rec, and Public Works. I'm thankful for their support from the directors and the staff. IU Environmental Resilience Institute, who provides us guidance, and also McKinney Climate Fellows. I'm thankful for the City of Columbus and Town of Nashville for their cooperation in Project 46. Thankful for the support and cooperation of Monroe County Emergency Management and Monroe County Health Department, my Stay Cool Bloomington implementation team, Dr. Dana Habib, and the IU Healthy Cities Lab, Climate Resilience Task Force, and also our vendors, Climate Nave, Verigy, Donovan Energy, and Farallon Strategies. So thank you, council members, for your support of climate action and for giving me the opportunity to give an update on our progress in implementing our climate action plan and addressing the climate crisis. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mia. It's amazing how much you've accomplished, and your team is obviously working very hard. Are there questions about the climate action plan updates or anything you've heard? Councilmember Rollo.
Thank you, Sean. That was really a great presentation, and I just have a couple questions. I think of the progress we've made on the renewables, but they need to be thought of as replaceables because they have a definite lifespan, albeit decades, but we have to replace them every 20 or 30 years. Have we budgeted replacements, a projection of costs in terms of replacement? And is this something that we might want to be considering soon?
I think we have some time before we need to budget for replacements of the solar power systems. They were installed in 2017, and they're producing as they were intended to. So I think that's something that we should keep in the back of our mind and start to think about when would be a good time to allocate for those system replacements. But I think we're in a good shape at the moment.
Okay, maybe an estimate would be in order of the total system array, at least for the city, what we have in our domain.
Okay.
And do we, I mean, to perform optimally, they require some maintenance. Is that something that we budget for, or something that people, we have staff that say clean them
Yes.
to make sure that they're working properly?
Yes, this year I have budgeted $75,000 for operation and maintenance, and also for time and materials for Verigy to perform their routine maintenance, operation and maintenance, and also for any repairs that are needed. And so we've spent $37,000 so far this year on replacing the solar panels, some inverters, and also repairing an electrical panel. So, Verigy, they're monitoring our production on our online dashboard called PowerTrack.
Okay, great. And just one quick comment. If we're going to replace, and I'm all in favor of replacing lights with LEDs, but for outside lights, could we keep in mind to avoid blue lights for insects, because it's implicated in their decline, and I try to repeat that now and then when I hear about expanding our LED replacements.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councilmember Strasburg.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned that there's a solar dashboard called PowerTrack. Is that a dashboard that the public at all could access to see how much solar energy the city installations are producing?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a way to provide a public login for that, but I can check.
Okay, I think that could be interesting. As an aside, maybe I can talk to you about that some. Our church actually has just a dashboard that they show on just a screen, so you can't do anything with the data. You can't manipulate it like you could in an account, but anybody can walk in and like see that. And I'm not sure exactly the computer tech behind that, but I know that my husband helped with it, so
Okay. That's a
it
great
exists.
question. I will find out. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Councilmember Asare.
I only have one question. The question I ask every time that we get a presentation is is there anything that this body can do more than that we are doing, or that if you had an ask for us, what would that be?
Thank you for that question. I would really appreciate it if you would tell your constituents about our dashboard. That's the best way for people to learn about what we're doing at the city, and then also actions that they can take themselves. So I would appreciate that. And then also going to our sustainability website where all of our grant programs are listed. That would be great.
And in terms of legislation or funding, are there any requests in that regard? Or
As far as
needs or
funding,
pain points, yeah.
Oh, thank you. As far as funding, you'll see my budget request. There'll be a few changes this year, just wanting to really lift up climate resilience. And so I would appreciate your support on that. But as far as legislation goes, it's difficult because we're in Indiana, and there's a lot of things that I would love to see us do, but if we try to enact more stringent building codes, we will be overruled. So, but I will continue to go to the Climate Action Resilience Committee meetings and working through possible legislative issues there.
Other questions? I will just say I appreciate the equity initiatives you've undertaken as far as grants for solar and retrofitting, to make households more energy efficient, and of course the air conditioner distribution. Are there other ways that you're looking at climate resilience and sustainability through an equity lens?
I would say the AC distribution program, climate resilience as far as equity.
I can answer this for you, Sean. I'll say just having
Can you please come to the microphone and state your name? Thank you.
Jane Cooper-Smith, Director of Economic and Sustainable Development. I just want to say, after working with Sean for 8 months, I can say that she approaches everything through a lens of equity, and in all of her project development, program development, and management, she's looking at ways that the work that we're doing can be made to support our most vulnerable residents, and just making sure that we're thinking of those people first. I mean, we're thinking about impact of our programs, but especially for our vulnerable neighbors. So,
I do have 2 additional projects that I didn't mention tonight that addresses equity. So I'm looking at bus stops in low-income neighborhoods that are not sheltered and that do not have trees around them to provide shade. And so I'm wanting to target a couple of bus stops. I have some funding this year for that, as well as creating cool corridors. So wherever low-income residents are walking to those bus stops or walking to parks or schools, that those sidewalks are shaded. So those are 2 additional initiatives.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any final questions? We are at 7:20. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I will be exploring that dashboard and letting my constituents know.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next on our agenda is reports from council committees. Councilmember Stossberg.
Hi, thank you. I do have a report from the hiring committee for our new council administrator attorney position. As you can see, our deputy attorney, wonderful deputy attorney is over there because our former attorney's last day was last Friday. So our committee met 3 times over the summer to get the job description posted. We've actually had 2 postings for that. The first posting had applications due on July 14th, and we received 3 applicants that had the necessary qualifications, i.e. were attorneys. And so we relisted it, and this new job posting closes next Wednesday, August 7th. And so our next meeting is going to be Friday the 9th so that we can assess the applications that we have gotten at that time. So because of the length at this point of the hiring process, we are estimating that we're going to be without that council administrator attorney position for about 2 months. So through August and probably most, if not all of September, depending on how interviews manage to get scheduled, depending on if we have enough applicants, et cetera, after the second round comes to a close. So due to that extended vacancy, the committee thinks it's in the best interest of council to officially appoint an interim council attorney and administrator for that time. And so yesterday when we met, we approved to recommend Deputy Attorney Ash Kulak as the interim for that period of time, which would officially start next Monday, August 5th, because that's when pay periods start. And that position has HR let me know that the administrative standard this year has been interims make about 85% of the official salary for that position. So because of that, and hopefully I explained that well, I'm going to move that we I'm going to get to my right screen that has my motions on it. I'm going to move to appoint Deputy Attorney Ash Kulak to that position of interim council administrator and attorney beginning August 5th until such time as the position of council administrator attorney is filled at that interim salary of $88,400 per year.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Ash Kulak as the interim council attorney / administrator. Are there any comments or questions on that? Councilmember Asare?
Just a question about the process. You said that that it was posted, that you got some applicants and then chose to post it again. How was that decision made? Why was it posted again?
We had a meeting after the deadline, and we decided that the 3 applicants that we had would not make it enough of a competitive process. And it had only been listed for maybe 2 weeks at that time, and that included the week of 4th of July. And one of the reasons why we listed it for that period of time was it was partly, I suppose, it was just due to council schedule, like council member schedules that were on that committee, because that was the 1 week in summer when all 3 of us were actually here, as opposed to somebody being traveling in one place or another. So we listed it for, I think that it was just about 2 weeks, and then closed it, met as a committee when I don't think that we got enough applicants, and then relisted it. I also talked to City Attorney Margie Rice about it, and she also indicated that hiring for attorneys this was just a challenging time to hire an attorney. So if there's any attorneys out there who might be interested in applying for this position, it is listed on the city website, and please, consider that if it is of interest to you, because we are still assessing applicants for that.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So based on that last point, it seems to me quite important that we have somebody involved in the process who can evaluate the credentials of a lawyer. Is there anybody on the committee who can do that?
I actually brought up at the meeting yesterday the idea of adding another council member to the committee. When we appointed this committee, it was kind of a sudden thing, and we had to do it sort of in a hurry because we were facing the summer recess and a decision had to get made about what to do. So I think that that's something that is under consideration. Council president, of course, is the one who's in charge of potentially making assignments for committees.
Yeah, I would motion that we add either Councilmember Flaherty or Councilmember Rosenbarger, unless there's other people here who are lawyers that can be appointed, but I would motion that be taken into consideration. I also have just general concerns around the sort of posting, and I think I think we all could have contributed a little bit to some of the wording there, but I mean, at a minimum, I think it would be very useful to have a lawyer and or attorney on the hiring committee. Thank you.
Councilmember, sorry, I don't understand your motion. I'm sorry.
Motion to add to add somebody to add a 4th member to the committee.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second. All right, any questions before? Wait, was there already a motion on the table?
Well, there is a motion. No. Yes, there is a motion on the table
to take care of that one first.
To appoint Deputy Attorney Ash Kulak to the position of interim, but I'm not sure. I think that I would need to check about our procedures, whether we can motion to appoint additional people to council committees.
Yeah, and I mean, just a point of information, I guess, is because there was a report followed by a motion, and so, we didn't get a chance to talk about the report first. So I would ask that you table, because I also have some questions about the motion, just particularly around, I have some questions around the motion. So I would ask that you table the motion so that we can discuss first the report. I can introduce my question or motion or let it be voted on or whatever, and then we can actually get to the second part, because it did 2 things at once there. But
I did do 2 things at once. I think that we could also handle the motion to appoint our deputy attorney as an interim, and then also continue talking about the hiring committee in general and the process in general. But I'm hoping that we can get an answer procedurally about committees and whether we can vote like that to add people to committees.
I think we do need to vote on the motion at hand, and I do not think it precludes us from discussing further the work of this committee and the composition of this committee. So are there any questions about or comments on the motion to appoint Ash Kulak as our interim council attorney administrator?
Just one.
Yes, Councilmember Sarr.
Just making sure, so should Attorney Kulak be made interim, and if we were to hire a director, Attorney Kulak would still retain their current position in the city, correct? correct? This doesn't put in any jeopardy or concerns. Okay, long term, good.
And also, just to be clear, I did have a conversation with Deputy Attorney Kulak, and they are interested in doing this for us. I did not make this motion without them knowing that I was doing it, and being willing to accept the position.
All right, well then, we can have a roll call vote on the, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, how far out can you put your arm? Councilmember Flaherty.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm, I believe you said this in the prelude to the motion, Councilmember Stossberg, but the 85% figure of what the salary was for the former attorney, that's under the guidance of HR, that level? And
Yes, that's correct. I consulted with HR about it. I made sure with the controller's office that that was all kosher and everything looked good. And yeah, so that is at the blessing. And I also did kind of what I'll consider due diligence and talked to Margie Rice about the idea of any other potential interim, but of course it makes sense for somebody who is essentially already doing that job. And one of the reasons why we as a committee thought that this was important is that there are going to be more responsibilities that fall on Deputy Attorney Kulak's shoulders during this time, whether or not we make them an official interim, and that it just felt fair to compensate them in some way for the additional time that they're going to be spending, and also to make it official that they're like a touch point for the council office in terms of the public, and also in terms of other departments in the city being able to reach out to them as a gateway to council business.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other comments or questions on the motion? Councilmember Rosenbarger.
Piggybacking on that, is it possible to change the salary range? I think a couple of things. I think this is a really difficult position, and I think potentially we didn't have it listed enough, and it was a difficult time in the year to have it listed. But I think also if people see a range that makes it worth it, they're also more likely to apply. So just wondering if that's a possibility. I think it's really hard to be competitive here, and I know we struggle with that at all levels of city government with our salaries. And follow-up question, has there been any discussion about separating out the two roles in this position? So we have an attorney that is exclusively and an attorney, and then we have someone else who is an administrator and potentially like admin office manager type that could potentially be directed to other full-time staff in our office. So those are my two questions right now.
Do either of those actually apply, not to be particular to the motion on the table about appointing Deputy Attorney Kulak to the interim position?
Oh no, we're going to ask other questions after we finish this motion. Okay, and then I'll have some more things.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion to appoint Ash Kulak as our interim council attorney / administrator? All right, Clerk Bolden, could you please call?
Sorry, I have one more important question.
Councilmember, sorry.
So there's a workload question that sort of builds off of one of the things that that Councilmember Rosenbarger was just saying. The person who now will become interim no longer has a deputy, right? So we're essentially asking the deputy to do the full job of the director, and we can't backfill temporarily the deputy job. Is there some way that we can get the administrative support, and or do we not need it in the long run?
So other conversations that I've had throughout this process, as I said, I talked to Margie Rice, who said we are available to help support the deputy attorney in various ways. One of the things that's been explained to me between the attorney and the deputy attorney is that, it's kind of law can have some areas of interpretation, and sometimes it is nice to be able to communicate with another professional in that field. And Margie Rice has said that the city attorney's office is there if there was a need for that kind of specific legal assistance. Of course, we have our assistant Colleen, who is also very helpful with the administrative stuff. And for most of this year, I think that you were hired in April Okay, so for a good part of this year, there was not that additional administrative assistant. And then there's also been conversations with the clerk's office, between the clerk's office and myself and deputy attorney, in ways that the clerk's office can assist in different ways to support the council office during this time. Because, yeah, I mean, you're right, like either way, there's going to be, there's a vacancy. There's a vacancy. And I did, as I said, I tried to do due diligence and look outside of the council office and go, well, like, is there anybody else that it might make sense to appoint as an interim, so that then they're still, like, so that then the council office is staffed, especially because it's budget time, but it was just not really practical because any other appointment would require some amount of training. So this was the kind of practical way to do it, and it will make life more complicated.
Yes. Do you have a follow-up question, Councilmember? Sorry. You look very pensive there for a moment. Okay, Councilmember Rallo.
I just wanted to extend my thanks to the committee for their work on this and for Ash Kulak's willingness to fill that role. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion that's on the table? Okay, Clerk Bolden, could you please call the roll on the motion to appoint Ash Kulak as our interim council attorney administrator?
Yes, Councilmember Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Stossberg?
Yes.
Vasari?
Yes.
Rosenbarger?
Yes.
Daly?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Zulik?
Yes.
Rallo?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. That motion passes, and we thank Ash Kulak for stepping up in our hour of need, which they have already been doing. So we appreciate it.
So speaking of Deputy Attorney Kulak, does anybody know the answer of whether council can make a motion to appoint an additional person to a council committee? I think so.
Deputy Attorney Kulak, do you have any advice for us?
I was looking into Robert's rules about additional committees. I think additional appointments to a committee. The methods of appointment can be a variety of ways, including nominations or appointments by the chair, or appointment by adoption of a motion naming the members of the committee. So I think that's possible. The question of who should do it, I haven't seemed to find the answer, but I think, especially since it's a special committee that would dissolve at the end of the assigned function.
Did you say it could be either the discretion of the president or a nomination of the existing committee, or of all of council?
So appointments by the chair or nominations by the chair, I don't know if your committee has a chair or not.
I think that I ended up the default chair at our last meeting, but I'm not sure that anybody's appointed me chair, so I'm not sure that that counts. And
I just want to clarify as council president that I am in favor of appointing a fourth member, and I'm in favor of appointing a fourth member who is an attorney or has legal training. So just, I don't know if you still want to make a motion, but I am in favor of that, and I'm going to speak with other members of the council about this, about possibly serving.
yeah, and so our next meeting is not until the 9th, which is after our next council meeting, which means that Councilmember Piedmont Smith would not have to appoint somebody tonight for them to still be serving at our next meeting.
Councilmember Zulik?
Before we vote, can we just clarify that our lawyers and attorneys on this council would be interested and available to do this work?
I don't actually know that there's a motion on the table unless Councilmember Asari wants to resurrect his motion.
Yeah,
Councilmember Flaherty?
I just wanted to first confirm that Bloomington Municipal Code 2.04.240 on special committees allows the presiding officer, the council president, to name members to a special committee. So I think you have the inherent authority to do that, and I think that's the authority that was used when you created this committee in June. Additionally, I am open to the idea as a lawyer of joining the committee, and I would imagine Councilmember Rosenberger may be as well, and that among us we can probably figure out who is best suited to that. Also, I think we both have some experience with hiring through other professional work, which is maybe an additional consideration or benefit. So I don't know if we need to vote on it tonight necessarily, but I think I support the idea as well.
Any other comments or discussion?
So the short story on that is that it'll probably happen next week, and you'll work it out between now and then.
That is my intention.
Great. Should we revisit Councilmember Rosenberger's questions?
Yes, question number one, does it make sense to reconsider the salary range, and what authority do we have to do that?
When we set the salary range, we kind of had to set it based on what was existing because that's how much money was allocated for it. We could, as a council, reconsider, of course, the budget in 2025 for this position. Mr. Lucas indicated that he thought that it was a fair salary.
Is the high range of 12s at the city, or is that
Yeah.
is the highest?
It's the high, yeah. I think that it was the high range of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was also, though, I think that there was a much greater range on it originally, but there's not actually enough money allocated to pay that larger range. And so we did make sure, so I think that the 12 salary grade goes past what the salary range on the posting is, but we actually, I mean, we had to use the budget number that's actually allocated for the position. Like, we can't say like, oh, we can pay somebody up to $130,000 for it, but we don't actually have that much money allocated.
So, I mean, it's nice we haven't gone through budget yet. So I think that you had kind of answered it opposite. It's not at the highest range a 12 can be.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay. I think we should look at that. And then my other question was, has there been any consideration of separating out some of the responsibilities? So we're hiring an attorney to be exclusively an attorney.
I've wondered that personally. I don't think that, I'm trying to remember back to the first meeting. The first meeting, of course, was the one Councilmember Ruff and I were present. Councilmember Piedmont Smith was unavailable. And we made slight modifications to the job posting as it was posted however many years ago when Mr. Lucas had been hired. And I do think that there is some, I feel like I remember reading at some point, and I don't remember where it is right now, and I have looked for it and couldn't find it since then, that that job title is fixed currently. So we would have to do, I think, a lot more legislatively to pick those things apart. And at the time, I mean, Councilmember Ruff and I were approaching the summer and going, we need to try to get this process rolling as fast as possible. And so we got it rolling as fast as possible. I think that, you know, as Councilmember Asari just said, or just really enunciated, like, there's going to be a gap in the council office right now, and we are approaching budget season, and we're asking our remaining staff to do more. And we were trying to make that gap as short a time period as possible. And I think if we want to, if it is the desire of the council as a whole to go back and really figure out like what would need to happen to separate those positions, to really evaluate how we're going to do that, then we could do it. It would just mean that we are leaving a longer period of time where there's a gap in council office. And I'm not saying that we can't do that. And if we want to do that, then I think that we can, but it's maybe asking a lot. Clerk Bolden, do you have input on that? Because your office is also, this trickles down, so.
Not direct input, but I would say that since the clerk's office is in the process of renaming some job titles and getting them reclassified, HR just recently sent us an update to their work process, which included the council's office directly, so that you all could do it through that process. Or if you want to separate it out and do it as council, as a body, I'm sure that you all can do so as well, since you are your own separate branch of government. But I did want to at least throw that out there. And they're going to be opening up the salary ordinance anyway to do some renaming of positions and probably have to do some appropriations anyway. So just adding bits of information.
I think in a large way, like changing those details doesn't necessarily affect the type of people that we need to hire, or the type of person that we need to hire in terms of, you know, qualifications.
I think it can separate stuff out, actually, and I think it can open the pool to a larger group, I guess. Okay, thanks. I'll stop for now.
Can I follow up on that? What do you mean by open up the pool? Because we would still need an attorney.
Yes.
And so that's the piece where I'm kind of like, we would still need an attorney. We would still need somebody with attorney's credentials.
Yes.
And so that's the thing that I was thinking about when I said, yeah, I mean, if we had an attorney separate from an administrator, then those would be two completely different things. But this department head would still need to be an attorney.
I just think the way the role is, it's almost like two positions, and that is also daunting to take on for someone. And that is why I think separating it out could make it appeal to more people, more attorneys. Okay, Isak, I guess. Sorry, it's not my place to tell you who's next.
I seem to remember when Dan Sherman was our council attorney administrator that there was some requirement that that we couldn't hire somebody who wasn't an attorney as our administrator. And I don't know if I'm misremembering or it's all kind of hazy in my mind, but I thought there was a reason why both the deputy and the main administrator had to be attorneys. And I don't know if that would then preclude us from hiring an administrator who was not an attorney. So that might be something in Indiana code that we would have to look up. And I don't know if Deputy Attorney Kulak knows off the top of their head if that's a thing or if I'm making it up, but just something else to keep in mind.
Off the top of my head, I don't think that is a thing, because I think I've seen other examples of other municipalities with some who are just administrator and some who are just attorney, but I would need to confirm and look into that to get a definitive answer.
Thank you. Councilmember Asare?
Just piggybacking off of what Councilmember Rosenberger just said, to me, any time that there is a vacancy, it's an opportunity for us to reorganize and think very carefully about, strategically, about what it is that we want to do, how you envision this, et cetera, and this being able to have that conversation without, you know, these sort of strong emotive ties that you have to people who are currently in the roles. I mean, I, having not been here, can almost guess at why it is that we have the structure that we have, and that's because we've had the structure that we've had for a very long time. And so we have to take the opportunity when the opportunity presents itself. It may be that we want to keep the same structure, but we have to query that because you may not get an opportunity to do that for another, 25 years. And so I think it's very critical that we think carefully about what it is how we want to organize our office, how we want to position the sort of support that's needed for us to function at the highest level possible to serve the residents of Bloomington as a separate body of government. And again, like, this is the only chance that we get to do this. So I would really admonish the committee to think very carefully about that, and not just to assume that because this is how it's been, that's how, there must be some code somewhere that says it. We also have the power, if there's municipal code involved, like, we write it, so let's write some new stuff, right? I mean, let's let's make this hire, this organization work to the best possible outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stossberg?
I'm sure that there's some municipal code that dictates this, and you're right, we could change it if we want to. And that's the thing where it's like, oh, I can't quite remember exactly where it is that I read that, but there is local code on that does specify, and there is state code that specifies the types of people that council may hire, or councils may hire.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did find the code, and I think that even when Mr. Sherman was here, others thought that his interpretation was too strict, but it is a 364624 in Indiana code that says the legislative body may hire or contract with competent attorneys and legal research assistants on terms it considers appropriate. But even here, we have, well, and I don't know actually if Ms. Williamson's position is research assistant, but if it is, then this is the reason why. The previous council attorney administrator interpreted it as that's the only kind of positions we can hire. And I don't know if that's a good interpretation or not. But I appreciate all these comments. I think we need to find a balance between timeliness in filling the position and making the best decision, which is not necessarily based on precedent, right, for what kind of organization we want and could best serve the council. So I encourage all of my colleagues to reach out to the hiring committee members who are currently Andy Ruff, Hopi Stossberg, and myself, with more detailed ideas or just a conversation about moving forward. Councilmember Rosenbarger?
Two things. Again, one, I'm happy to be on the committee if that makes sense. Number two, is there a way to edit, though, the current posting? I just think the on-call 24/7 portion is terrifying and not true. So I would never apply to that job unless I was some kind of brain surgeon, I think, and it's expected. What do we think on that?
I would like to respond to that because I brought that up at that first meeting, and Mr. Lucas said, no, you should leave that in. And there has been indication to me sometimes that council members do indeed contact the council attorney at all hours. And I don't know who or when or why, but Mr. Lucas indicated that that should stay. And you're right, I was concerned about that line. I was like, really? Like, you really? And he was like, yeah. So.
Mr. Lucas operated on his own, and I just think I have no expectation that a council attorney should respond to anyone at Sunday at 3 in the morning, even if somebody, I don't think he did. So I think it's probably that expectation in a job posting, I think, is nothing I've ever seen, and I think it's probably keeping some people from applying.
We could certainly change that, and then we can all pledge to not contact the council attorney unless it's a true emergency during non-business hours.
I think,
Councilmember Zulik?
Thank you, sorry. I think also, like, we can set an expectations. I know that one thing I really appreciate about Clerk Bolden is in her emails, it always says, I'm emailing you at this time because this is what works for me. You can respond at a time that works for you. So it doesn't, like, I'm not saying all of us need to pledge to only contact our attorney from the hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but kind of have the expectation that that might be when they respond.
Yeah, I also think that whoever has communicated, and I'm not entirely excluding myself, but who have communicated outside of, well outside of regular business hours, they must have gotten a reply back, else they would have stopped doing it. And so I think, as somebody who has supervised staff, I just tell them do not reply, else, set your own boundaries, because else people will expect you to reply. But anyway, we are really getting in the weeds here. Are there other comments that people want to share tonight, advice for the hiring committee as we move forward? Councilmember Flaherty.
I appreciate the invited, and of course we all, in our own initiative, could have given feedback or communicated with you about the posting at any point. But maybe even, meetings of the committee going forward, like if other council members have wanted to attend and participate even, I think that's totally viable and something that we could just be intentional about inviting. So glad we're having the conversation.
Yeah, to clarify, those are public meetings. They are publicly noticed. And the exception to that is executive committees or executive session. So there will be executive sessions of this committee for, let's see if I can remember the exact way that's set in code, for the purposes of receiving applicant information and interviews. So interviews will end up being closed, which is reasonable, I think. And there's different, you can say, interpretations over what receiving applicant information might mean. And we're actually kind of trying to look into that right now, and that's privacy issues. But anything that has to do with deliberating, for example, over who to hire or who to interview, those are all, it's like applicant numbers. So when we got sent our first packet of applicants, they were numbered 1 through 4. And so we don't have any names for them. We don't, we just know applicants 1 through 4. And that's the way that it will remain until we decide on interview stuff. So yeah, everybody should come. It's, let's see, the 9th it's in the afternoon sometime. Thank you. 1 p.m. on the 9th.
Which may or may not be an executive session.
Right.
But that will be noticed.
Correct.
Well in advance. Yes. Point well taken, Councilmember Flaherty. Other comments? Okay. Well, thank you all for your input. Councilmember Stossberg?
Yeah, I kind of have a comment or a question because I think somebody asked, is it possible to change the job description right now? And I would say not as it is, but if we want to repost it again, then we certainly can. And and so that would be, I guess, my approach to that. And so the question I actually want to ask you guys as a group right now, and you can say it now if you want, or you can think about it and contact me, if we, the hiring committee, kind of look at what we have next Friday and go, we maybe got 1 or 2 new people, maybe there's a couple of people that might work out, how would people feel about saying, well, we still don't have enough of a pool, let's relist this, let's really regroup now that we're all back in session and all back in town, and we're extending this committee by a 4th person who has legal experience, because that does delay any hiring for a longer period of time. So, it's that balance of taking longer, but then maybe formatting things a little bit differently. So I'm interested in hearing generally what other council members feel about that balance as a committee member, either now or you can send me a message or talk to me privately.
Any responses at this point to Councilmember Stossberg? Councilmember Daley?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it got to that point, I would be open to reposting. We want to make sure we get a really good fit. So if we feel maybe we didn't get enough applicants to be really competitive, or somebody that we just didn't feel was a perfect fit for us, this is a really important role for us. I think we could all agree. And it would extend the pain point, sure, of being short-staffed for a while. And I don't know that Deputy Attorney Kulak would want to extend their interim position. So we would have to have that other conversation and see if that was a possibility. But I think we just want to make sure that we're really focusing and making sure that we get the best fit possible. And then just quick question on process. Do then, once a final candidate has been identified by the committee, I'm assuming then that it gets brought before the full council and we get input and discussion on it, yeah? Thank you. Got it.
The response was yes by Councilmember Strasburg. Please remember to use the microphones.
Yes.
Councilmember Asari.
I think we can't take for granted. I mean, I think we would all agree, but we shouldn't take it for granted. The statement that Councilmember Daley just made, and that we want to get a good fit. What do we mean by that? What is it that we actually are looking for? What actually, you know, if the answer is just attorney, right? I mean, you know, any warm body will do. If you're listening, you know, apply, we want you. That's not, like we have to actually set, like, what is it that we're actually looking for doing? The committee's then going to bring this to us as a body. This is the first time that we've had any significant input, opportunity to give significant input on this. And it's just like, how do we even evaluate the question in the first place when it's brought before us? And again, it's like, it doesn't have to be this complicated, but it's like, it is the only opportunity that we will have to think about how we as a council can best serve the people of Bloomington. But I won't say any more of that.
Thank you. Councilmember Strasburg?
Yeah, I just want to address that real fast. At our meeting in July, we actually went through a round-robin exercise, basically, of listing the things that we would want to see in a good candidate. So I think that you could probably see that meeting, or if you just want me to list them real fast, I can find them in my notes and I can list them out. But would you like me to do that right now, or?
Is the attorney only to the council president, vice president, and treasurer? The answer is no, obviously. The attorney is attorney to all 9 people in the council, and you can't, in a group of 3, which is a minority of the group in council, say that we did a round robin and came up with some ideas of what we are looking for. None of us have any input on that. So we might be looking for X, Y, Z things that aren't even on that list. And if you're not going to bring that, if that's not open to our input, that's you see, like.
Isak, I just offered to read it to you right now, and then you could add to it.
Right now, and like this is, again, it doesn't have to be this complicated, but it's like we can't keep sort of hiding behind process and then doing things wrong and then saying that, well, this is how it has to be. Like that's not the right way to do do I don't like, this isn't like a hill.
We literally had a public meeting.
Point of interest here, a point of privilege. I feel like you are attacking the work of this committee, and I do not feel that is fair. And we are listening, and we are hearing your input now. And so if you could please refrain from assuming ill will on the part of the committee, I would appreciate it.
Thank you for saying that. There's no ill will assumed. I'm making a comment basically on the fact that this is the first time that we have had an open opportunity to give input on this matter. And it's not okay in my mind to say that, hey, well, we did something and you're going to report back to us and say, well, this is your opportunity to do it. This hasn't. If you want meaningful input, you prepare people to give meaningful input, and that's all I'm saying. But again, I mean, I'm just that is the input I'm giving. If you want to think about how we get to the best outcomes here, then we could have thought about this, you know, in a more holistic and inclusive way.
Well, the nature of this committee is that the council president assigned a hiring committee, and it was the hiring committee's responsibility to then figure out this hiring process. And I'm sorry that you didn't feel included enough in this hiring process at this point, but you expressed that concern about, well, what is it that we're evaluating anybody on? So my we is we, the hiring committee, all 3 of us made a list of things that we're interested in evaluating people on. And my question to you was, would you like me to read that list right now? Would you like to set up a meeting and we can go over that list? Would you like to, I mean, I think that it would be easiest for you to see or hear the list that we already created before you start adding to the list, because maybe some of the things that are interesting to you are already on our list, and then you don't need to recreate the wheel and go, oh, well, I care about this thing. Oh, wait, you guys already thought of that. Now, is this an all-inclusive list? No, absolutely 100% it is not an all-inclusive list. Okay, I'm not sure that anything like this can ever be an all-inclusive list, and I am always eager for more things to add to a list of of qualifications or what things we're looking for or what we need out of that person. And I said the global we because each of us are individuals and need individual things.
I'm
but
sorry, Councilmember Strasburg. I just realized that we've gone way over the 20 minutes that is allowed for council committee reports. So I will, yes, Councilmember Flaherty.
Might I suggest that we just move on from this portion of the agenda? I think there are different opinions about the process, how to move forward, how to give input. I think there are lots of ways to do that outside of a conversation in this meeting right now. And would request that you consider we just moving on.
Yes, since we have reached the time limit quite a while ago, let's do that. And just to reiterate, those of us on the hiring committee currently, which will probably be expanded by one, are open to everybody's input, and we're happy to share the list of characteristics of an ideal candidate that we developed. We can send that to all of you, and we can make it public too if you all would like. All right, so next on the agenda, we have reports from the public. So this is the first opportunity for public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. And again, there's 20 minutes reserved for this part of the meeting. Deputy Attorney Kulak, could you please make an announcement for participants on Zoom?
Sure. If folks on Zoom would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand using the Reactions tab at the bottom. And if you do not see it, there is a More tab where you can find it, use the reaction, and raise your hand. And I'll see you and be able to notice you and unmute you when necessary.
Thank you. We'll start here in Council Chambers. If you could please state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Awesome. It's taking a little while. Hello, my name is Greg Alexander. I went to Edgewood High School. It was only 2 miles away, but there was no safe route. I didn't have a car. It was a huge disadvantage to me. I want better for my sons. The city says it wants better too. So I'm just going to try this. Next slide. I'll just do that way. In 2001, I had just graduated from IU, and the council passed the first Greenway System Plan. In 2007, the Cascades Path Feasibility Study identified the segment south of the playground as the most important segment, and I was learning accordion in 2007. Next slide, please. The 2008 Greenway System Plan called for Cascades Path again because it's a route to a school. The word school appears 20 times in this document. I was 28, and I was struggling to figure out how to take a photo of myself to upload to a dating website. Next slide, please. The 2009 Peak Oil Task Force report calls for a network of greenways extending all the way to the edge of the city. Within 15 years, it calls for bold, quote, bold implementation. And I had just met the woman I would marry. Next slide, please. In 2010, Parks and Rec started spending federal transportation dollars on the Cascades Path, but they started with the low priority segments. That's not what priority means. You don't start with the low priority segments. And my girlfriend made a face at me. Next slide, please. The 2011 Journey to Platinum report again called out the Cascades Trail as essential connectivity for North High School. This was supposed to be completed by 2016. In 2011, I got married. Next slide, please. It's already been 10 years since it was first planned. During this time, Parks and Rec continued to build out the low priority phases of the Cascades Path, and my family grew. Next slide, please. In 2018, the City Council finally appropriated money specifically for the high priority segment, and Parks stole that money. And my 6-year-old ate a sausage. Next slide, please. The 2019 Transportation Plan has this groundbreaking principle: pedestrians come first. So why are we still waiting when driver needs are already met? And by 2019, even my youngest was going to school. Next slide, please. In 2020, there was a pilot project to open the Cascades Path for bike and ped. It was amazing. Next slide, please. Then they took that away. They also installed this crash attenuator, and someone has already crashed into it. That was about 3 years ago. Already it's been crashed into. Do you want to share the road with the kind of driver that crashes into guardrails? People tell me this route is good enough already because the middle-aged males in Lycra who ride $3,000 racing bikes and post the route on Strava love this. Come on, this is a park. Is this good enough for kids? My kids are now 10 and 12. In just 2 years, my oldest will be a student at North High School. He will need this crucial connectivity 23 years after the city, or 25 years after the city announced it was a priority to be done first before other things. How many more generations are going to wait for this urgent priority? Thanks.
Thank you. Deputy Attorney Kulak, do we have anybody on Zoom who would like to comment?
No hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Anybody else in council chambers wish to make a comment? Please come to the podium and state your name. And there should be a sign-in sheet as well, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Do I sign in first?
Yes, please sign in.
All right, just a few remarks here, council members, all assembled. My name's Abe Shapiro. I've been a proud citizen of Bloomington over the last 3 years, 7 if you count my previous years as a student at IU. I am leaving for Los Angeles on August 3rd, but I just wanted to say a few things before I left. I arrived in Bloomington without a mission, but a desire to help those with disabilities. Having the opportunity to have an organization assisting students and staff with those at IU, and then being able to return to this city in 21 to report on disability news for WFHB Radio really gave me a chance to serve my city. And it's something I encourage any Bloomingtonians interested in broadcasting for the common good to pursue. I want to thank the council for its support of disability initiatives, including the renovation of our sidewalks and parks to create more accessible options in the city, and especially the Stay Cool Bloomington initiative for those with disabilities impacted by the summer heat. I also want to thank the council for permitting me to deliver a public comment eulogy on the day the iconic disability civil rights advocate Judy Heumann died back on March 7th, 2023. As the curtain drops on the Disability Pride Month, I urge the council to continue listening to the voices of disability populace in the city so our community can continue to remain as accessible as I know it can be. It's been a privilege to cover your meetings as part of WFHB Radio's partnership with Community Access Television Services. We each share a commitment to provide our constituents and listeners with transparent communication on the latest progress in our city. And it's been an honor to play a role in the mutual pursuit of that goal. I again want to thank all the council members, and especially want to single out Councilmember Rosenbarger. It was your work during the midterm elections in 2018 that inspired me to carry my passion for disability advocacy forward. And to the Bloomingtonians watching this meeting and our council members, I say, for every streak of rain, a ray of sun to ease the pain. For every sob a song as you skip on down the lane. For every storm a rainbow, a right for every wrong. And for every tear a dream which will come true before too long. As I depart this city that has become my heart and home, to return from whence I came, I leave with my best wishes, my strongest support for our city, and excitement for what it has yet to and will accomplish. This isn't goodbye, but it isn't, but rather until we meet again. I want to close my address here tonight by acknowledging the memory of my late grandfather, Robert Aaron Borns, who passed away on this day 2 years ago. It was his love of Indiana and Bloomington, as well as his passion for community service and goodwill that I, and I'm sure all Bloomingtonians share, in our pursuit of a more perfect and just society. I know I have throughout my time here. So it is with a heavy heart, yet with malice toward none, gratitude towards all, I yield the floor.
Thank you. Deputy Attorney Kulak, do you see any hands on Zoom?
No.
Okay. Is there anybody else in council chambers who would like to give a comment? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions. Do we have any appointments? Councilmember Strasburg.
Yeah, interview team A has one appointment. I'd like to move to reappoint Doug Horn to seat C1 on the Public Transportation Corporation Board of Directors.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor to reappoint Doug Horn to the Bloomington Transportation Board of Directors. Any comments, questions? Councilmember Flaherty.
I'm just curious, did the committee interview folks for that position? Were there multiple applicants under consideration? I believe Mr. Horn's currently serving, and this would be a reappointment, but could you speak a little bit more to the process behind this particular recommendation?
Staff said that they would prefer his reappointment.
Transit staff?
the committee staff. I got that information through the clerk's office. That was what was indicated to us, that they were in desire of his reappointment.
Okay. Does Clerk Bolden know or could clarify what that means? Bloomington Transit staff, as in Director Connell, as in the board, co-board members themselves, someone else?
I actually remember seeing the email, but I don't have it pulled up right now. So if you give me like 2 seconds, I can double check for you.
That'd be great, thank you. And so to clarify, there was from someone within the Bloomington Transit ecosystem, there was a recommendation for reappointment, and the committee deferred to that recommendation. Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay. And were there other applicants in the pool?
I could look real quick. I don't think so. I don't think that there were current ones. Mr. Horn did reapply. He did, I'll say, like, do a full application. Sometimes it feels like when people like apply for reappointment, it's like they put in their name and don't even try to put in any other information. And he did put in other information, and I was pleased with the fact that it seemed like he put in some time and effort and had interest in continuing to serve. And so between that, kind of what I would consider a complete application, and then also the desire that was communicated to us, and I probably have it in my email record somewhere too. It looks like Clerk Bolden might have it as well.
I do have it if you'd like some input. So from James McClary, who I believe serves on the board, wrote an email saying our board member Doug Horn is up for reappointment by the City Council. He's been a good board member, hasn't missed any meetings, and is a great contributor, and they asked for strong consideration of his reappointment. Included on that email was the Director of Public Transit, John Connell, as well as Mr. Horn, Ken McDaniels, who's also a member, Nancy Obermeyer, who's also a member, and Don Griffin, and I'm not sure if he is or is not a member of that commission off the top of my head.
Thank you. Just to clarify, if I could, this is by no means a statement about Mr. Horn's qualifications or service in the board. I'm just like trying to be careful with some of the positions with a lot of authority and power in particular, to make sure that we're being thoughtful and intentional about outreach, applications, et cetera. So that's where my questions are coming from, but thank you for answering them.
I appreciate that we're asking questions about this.
I would just add that the Bloomington Public Transportation Board of Directors is one of the few boards and commissions where there is a requirement that you have to have a certain parity between political parties. So that kind of reduces the applicant pool for this position. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Councilmember Strasburg?
You asked whether there were any other applicants, and I'm looking at that right now, and I cannot remember off the top of my head without looking at my calendar the date that Councilmember Asari and I met. For that, I think that it was early July. There it was. It was July 16th that we met for that. And at the time, there were no current applicants except for Mr. Horn. It looks like on July 21st, there was a creation of an application, but we had already met by that time and recommended Mr. Horn.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote on the motion to reappoint Mr. Horn? All right, Clerk Bolden, could you please call the roll?
That again. Councilmember Strasburg?
Yes.
Asari?
Yes.
Rosenbarger?
Yes.
Daly?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Zulik?
Yes.
Rallo?
Yes.
And Piedmont Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that passes 8-0, and we thank Mr. Horn for his continued service. Any other appointments to boards and commissions? I thought there was one more.
No, there's not.
No, there's not. Okay. Well, then we will move on to legislation for first readings.
I move appropriation ordinance 2024-02 be introduced and read by the clerk by title and synopsis only.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to introduce?
Yes, Councilmember Asari?
Yes.
Rosenbarger?
Yes.
Daley?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Zulik?
Yes.
Rallo?
Yes.
Piedmont Smith?
Yes,
Strasburg?
Yes.
that motion passes. Will the clerk please read?
Yes, just one moment, please. Okay, appropriation ordinance 2024-02 to additionally appropriate food and beverage tax funds, general fund dollars, and ARPA state and local fiscal recovery fund dollars for 2024, and to approve of a revised 2024 budget for the Monroe County Capital Improvement Board of Managers. Am I looking? Yes, okay. The synopsis is as follows. This ordinance provides permission to spend additional food and beverage, general, and ARPA funds in order to provide funds in 2024 for the Capital Improvement Board, for the clerk of the City of Bloomington, and to ensure that the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department has room in its budget to reabsorb and spend ARPA funds that may be returned by the United Way of Monroe County and heading home.
Second reading on August 7th. We have no items for second reading tonight or resolutions. We now come to our second period of public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Deputy Attorney Kulak, could you please make another announcement for anyone who may be remaining on Zoom?
If anyone is left on Zoom, if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand using the Reactions tab or the More tab. I don't actually see anyone from the public on Zoom right now.
We managed to scare them off with our internal committee reporting. All right, well, here in council chambers, I do see somebody, so please state your name and sign in, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Madam President, Council. This is Christopher Emdry from the Greater Bloomington Chamber, having fun all summer long here in Bloomington. I do want to say we are at 8:22, and I had the under today as far as how long the scheduled meeting would last. I underestimated the new rules and how much they would have effect on that time. I do want to say, though, as far as time goes, the summer recess I thought was an effective use of the Chamber's time. I know I rejuvenated during that time, and it was a chance where I think we could kind of not be around each other for a group of a few weeks. And I think that does do a benefit for the council's work in the long run, and I think it is a tradition that should continue. We talked about Stephen Lucas, and his last week was Friday, and I just want to say I was a big Stephen Lucas fan who brought such grace and humility to the job. Always took my calls and texts in the middle of the night, no matter if I was a council member or not. I kid on the last one, but Mr. Lucas would always get back with me on calls and emails, and never brought any of his superior intellect into it, and made me feel just like an equal. And I think he will be missed, but I appreciate his public service. We have budget season approaching, which is one of my favorite seasons. We've sort of talked a little bit on some of the hearings on the Chamber's priorities. We are going to continue to advocate for higher police salaries, investment in beautification, and taking care of our wonderful city assets for generations. Also want to say, as the summer is, we all kind of take some hiatuses. I know several council members took some much-needed vacations overseas. I appreciate council members Daley, Asari, and Strasburg, who have taken my calls and responded to my texts during this time on chamber initiatives. I think those need to be singled out. because, you know, the chamber is just one of many voices, but I do appreciate any time that, you know, we are heard on some of these matters. I'll say just one more thing on the personnel issues that you were talking about, and I kind of mentioned it before in a meeting. When Eric Spoonmore, CEO president, took over, we were much higher staffed at the chamber. We are now down 20% on our staffs by just reorganizing, re-looking at our positions, and trying to be more efficient as possible as the city kind of goes through that a little bit with its different grade levels to 12. I'm hoping each department sort of looks at that and sort of has a new set of eyes on what those positions are, what they do, and sort of the best use of our tax dollars. I look forward to next week's meeting and seeing all of you again. I thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, either on Zoom or in council chambers, who would like to comment? No?
No one on Zoom who isn't already here.
All righty. Well, then we will move on to matters of the council schedule. We have, in 2 weeks, on August 14th, we have scheduled a consensus building activity in place of a regular council meeting, and that will be at the same time at 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers. We have, I think that a topic that has become very important over the summer is one that would be appropriate for us to discuss, and that is street homelessness and how we best address that in the short term. We've talked a lot about longer term, but short term it's becoming a pressing problem. So that is my plan for the topic of the meeting. I would welcome input from any council members on the topic and any ideas for how to run the meeting. But I will also be working with Councilmember Asare, who has done a lot of research on consensus building activities to achieve a format that is the most inclusive and productive. There was a Climate Action and Resilience Committee meeting scheduled for next week that has been canceled, so stay tuned for future meetings of that group. Are there any other scheduling items, Deputy Attorney Kulak, that I've missed?
No, those are the two.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe that brings us to the end of our meeting, and so we are adjourned. Thank you.